When President Uhuru Kenyatta was re-elected for his second and final term in office, he outlined his priorities under the banner of the Big 4 Agenda. That is affordable housing, food security, universal healthcare, and manufacturing. On this edition of Transform Kenya, our focus is manufacturing. How is Kenya faring in terms of industry performance? What are the opportunities and challenges for a manufacturer in Kenya? And for a Kenya that is a net importer, where does this leave the concept of Buy Kenya, Build Kenya? Well, who better to kickstart this conversation for us than the vision bearer himself, the President of the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for your time.
How are you today?
Very fine. Asante for making time for us. Now we have been making very positive developments in the manufacturing sector in the country. According to the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, the sales by EPZ grew by 14.7% to more than 77 billion shillings in 2018 alone. Now, the Kenya Investment Authority as well registered 47 manufacturing projects that are worth more than 14 billion shillings in capital investments. These are very positive developments, Mr. President. But how would you say they have made an impact in the lives of wananchi?
Well, I think the first thing is that you've got to go back to the base. And the base is the vision of the Big 4, which is also underlined by our own Vision 2030. And what is that? Number one, to provide decent work for our people. Number two, to ensure that we have a healthy, educated society. To begin a program where every Kenyan, as is underlined by our own constitution, is given a guarantee to affordable, decent housing. And ultimately, when we band the lot together, manufacturing is a critical component both of our ability to provide healthcare, of our ability to provide housing, of our ability to provide food to our people, right? So it is a critical ingredient of all the pillars that we have set out for ourselves. So when we say that we are focused on improving the business environment, that's why we have worked so hard to try and remove all the barriers to doing business. That's why we've improved, I think from the time we took office, from number 120, now we are 60, and we are pushing to bring ourselves to below the 50 mark in not too long to go. That is why we're out there every day trying to visit countries, to attract investors, to attract capital, to come and invest and build Kenya. This is all aimed at just that one thing. All these will create opportunities for our people. That's why we're focused on our investment in roads. That's why we're focused on our investment in electricity and all the other enablers, ICT and everything else, because we need to be able, and that's why I said it's good to first of all go back to the base. Why the focus? The focus is so that we can achieve, you know, all these different agendas together. And I think we're making good progress. Like I said, as I've illustrated, we've gone quite some ways. We're still not there yet. Yeah, we're still not there yet. But we are very keen to ensure that over the next few years, we want Kenyans, wherever they live and whatever part of the country they're in, and in line with our devolution strategy, are able to achieve the basics of life and be able to enjoy a decent, healthy, and comfortable living in their country. That is the objective.
Right. And Mr. President, you've alluded to the ease of doing business, which is a quest that, you want to do this. And in fact, the World Bank Ease of Doing Business report of 2019 shows that we've really made great strides, going up from position 80 to 61 globally.
You're not talking about, we started off at 100 and almost 20 to 80 to 60. So with each passing year, we're doing better.
Right. And while that is the case, Mr. President, we've seen from position 80 to 61 globally.
You're not talking about, we started off at 100 and almost 20 to 80 to 60. So with each passing year, we're doing better.
Right. And while that is the case, Mr. President, we've seen key manufacturers leaving the country. For example, Cadbury, Kenya, we've seen Samia, Africa, that were making the Yana tires. And some of the factors that have been said to contribute to this is things like cost of energy, corruption. What are we doing to woo investors?
First and foremost, we've got to recognize that, yes, it is true, some have left, yeah? But we have almost 3 or 4 times the number of new companies setting up or expanding their businesses in Kenya, right? So maybe some have moved because they have consolidated. The Cadburys, for example, have consolidated their operations, I think, in Egypt. But we have Wrigley's, yeah, that have almost doubled their capacity and their investment in Kenya because they have chosen Kenya. So businesses sometimes move from one country to another for different reasons that are not necessarily associated with that particular country, but associated with their global strategy. So like I'm saying, for some who have left, we have also seen some who have increased their capacity in Kenya, and we have also seen new entrants into the Kenyan companies that were not previously in Kenya but are now in Kenya. I think we have almost 300 new companies that have come and set up base here in Kenya. So I think that's the first point that we need to recognize. The second is, yes, indeed, through KEPSAR and all these organizations, there's been complaints about cost of power, infrastructure. And so I said, we have also focused ourselves on increasing power generation capacity, which is what we have been working on. We have focused ourselves on increasing connectivity. We have focused ourselves on increasing the availability of affordable but clean, which is the next thing you've also got to recognize that Kenya has done. Affordable and clean power. So through all the different programs that we have managed, for example, to move connectivity of Kenyans to power from 32% to today 77% in a period of 7 years. 32% of Kenyans were the only ones connected to the grid in 2013. Today we have 74% of Kenyans connected to the grid. And this is as a result of the investment that we've made in those areas. Right? We have worked towards reducing the cost of that connectivity. Right? When I came into office, if you wanted power in your house or your neighborhood or your village to get a transformer, the cost was an average of 75,000 shillings. Today, you get connected at less than 15,000 shillings. So these are all things that we have been working on to make accessibility to the ingredients that allow people to do business easier and cheaper. Right? And that's the line of investment that we have taken, as a country. So those challenges were there. I'm not saying we have 100% dealt with them, but we are a long way towards actually ensuring that we are able to deal with the challenges that business felt were impediments to their ability to succeed in our country.
Right. Now, and as Kenya, we are faring better in the manufacturing sector comparing to our neighbors, Uganda and Tanzania. But in 2017, the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics as well did a research that showed our growth is still quite slow, attributing this to an influx of cheap imports from China, South Africa, the United Arab Emirates. How do you think we can deal with this?
I think first and foremost is a cultural change. I think for a very long time people have always thought that maybe imported goods are better, maybe looking at labels and looking at tags, and we encouraged that ability to not appreciate, you know, our own products. And that's why we came up with this policy of Buy Kenya, Build Kenya, right? Encouraging our people to buy local goods, saying that in government, a certain percentage of the goods that we buy as a government must come from Kenyans. Encouraging ourselves to buy local material and local fabrics. That's why today, and I said when I was up in, as we were launching Rivertex the other day, I said, look, yeah, even us in government, one day wear Kenyan clothes and be proud of what our young designers and Kenyans are making. Yeah, to begin to be able to develop a culture that we are proud of what our own brothers and sisters are actually making, and to promote it and to become good buyers. That's why when we've started the housing program, you know, we have said that there are going to be certain elements of housing that will be restricted to our informal or Juakali sector. I'm proud to say that in a few weeks we will be launching one particular program where already we have 850 million shillings that is completely going to go from that housing project, that is going to go to our people in Dagoretti and other places for the manufacture of doors, windows, and things like that. So that's money again circulating, and we've said there's going to be no importation of those products. So our hope as we move on, as we build Rivertexes of this world, as we go to revive Mountex, as we start reviving some of the mills, thicker mills, as we go and revive places like Kikomi and others, is that we create capacity, but we must also create consumption of what it is that our people make, and be able to develop a pride in saying that I'd be proud of wearing a Kenyan shirt, yeah, than wearing a shirt that is second-hand and used from some other place.
Right. And away from the cultural kind of sensitization that we want to do to have people be proud of the locally made, is there a deliberate policy intervention?
For example, I've just given you a very practical example,
like the fish,
of 800 million shillings,
yeah,
right, that we are spending, right, as we are developing a housing project that is dedicated to buying just local doors for that project, right? Doors made here. If we come to the windows and the hinges and the other things, maybe out of a project of 10 billion, 2 or 3 billion will be manufactured, made in Kenya, and as a consequence, employing Kenyans. I think that is a practical experience when we say, for example, and this is something that we're building into all our procurement rules as well, that there must always, even in international tender, be a 30% component that is local. Those are practical government programs that are aimed at encouraging local manufacture and use of local products.
Right. And Mr. President, you have been on the forefront in the fight against corruption in Kenya. And while there's varied opinion about the progress of this, I think Kenyans have seen visibly what the different arms of government are doing. How has this renewed war on corruption affected the manufacturing sector?
Well, for sure. If you look at, for example, the crackdown that has happened in customs, right, and the removal of illicit goods, yeah, that were coming in non-dutable, that has resulted in a lot of local manufacturers either having to shut down, like some of the ones that you've mentioned, or downsize. Right? When we, for example, said that we want to stop all of this and encourage local, and we stopped all this importation of edible oils that are coming in that are not even fit for human consumption. Yeah? The reports that we're getting is that now companies, local companies that are manufacturing those products have seen their sales, and this is something you don't have to take from me, go check with them. They have seen their sales almost double as a result. So what we're saying is we want to be strict. We want to ensure that we protect our industries. We want to work with our industries to ensure that they are more competitive, right? But we also encourage them not to take advantage, or corporations not to take advantage of that, yeah, and extort Kenyans by overpricing their products. So it's a give and take that we have been working on for a period of time, and I'm beginning to see the fruits of that occurring. I know, and I can mention a number of companies that have expanded their investment as a result of that policy. Some who are now saying, we want to get into potato farming, we want to start buying local, start for chips, for this, for that, as a result of the fact that they've seen that there is a government in place that is willing, yeah, and ready to protect their interest.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, tourism and agriculture have been key pillars to Kenya's economy and will continue to be. Has the focus on manufacturing affected this?
Absolutely not. Year on year. And this is one of the things that I keep saying, year on year. Our tourism industry is growing, yes? Agricultural sector. I think last year was one of the biggest maize harvests that this country has had in a long time. It may not be repeated today, but it's not because of lack of effort. Maybe, again, we have had issues with drought and other things, so it may go down. But those continue to be key pillars of our economic growth, and we have not ignored them. We are focused on them. We are putting more resources into them, and we appreciate that we're not looking for manufacture to replace traditional industries or traditional service sectors or other sectors, but to complement. What we were looking for complementarity. Yeah, we want to continue to focus on our traditional areas, but at the same time increase the share of manufacturing to GDP. So I don't think there is any conflict in that whatsoever.
Right. And talking about increasing the share of manufacturing, your government has outlined plans to have the contribution of the manufacturing sector to Kenya's GDP to 15%.
15%, yes.
By 2022, of course, a number of sectors you're focusing on. And of course, Mr. President, this will not be achieved overnight, and you have just under 3 years to reinforce your legacy. How are you handling pressure from some Kenyans who may want to see immediate results?
Well, you know, we must be truthful with one another. Yeah? As they say, Rome wasn't built in a day. But what this requires is commitment. And that's why I have been very focused on trying to encourage our people that to achieve our objective, it will not be achieved through an environment of constant bickering and politicking. We must have a plan. And that plan may not be achieved totally during my term, right? But if we begin to lay the foundations and start building the blocks, we will have a house, at the end of the day. And this is why I have tried very much to reach out to my friends across the political divide and said, yes, politics will come, and there will always be a time for politics. And as a democracy, we accept that and we appreciate that. But it can't be every day. Because this vision that we have, a vision that we all agree on, cannot be achieved if we don't pool our resources, if we don't have the ability to discuss and talk to one another, right? And if we are constantly going to be looking at every single facet of what we do from the eyes of politics, we need to look at it from the eyes of the development agenda and the vision that we jointly have for Kenya. Vision 2030 is not Uhuru's vision. It's not Raila's vision. It's not Ruto's vision. It is not Kalonzo's vision. This is the vision that we have designed for ourselves as Kenyans. And we can only achieve it by working together. Yes, let us compete, because maybe we may have different ways of achieving that particular agenda in terms of policy, in terms of programs, right? But at least we share that vision. So once the people decide that it will be this group of people who will lead this agenda for this particular time, let us support one another. And even if we criticize, let us criticize constructively, right? And I will continue to reach out to our people. I will continue to reach out to our leadership. I will continue across the divide, right? And that is the whole basis of my Building Bridges initiative, that what we do, we recognize, is not about me as president, but it is about 45 or 50 million Kenyans. I don't know what the census results will produce, right? And all we are is custodians who come and go. But Kenya and her people will always be here. Let us recognize that. Let us recognize that we can compete amicably. And let us recognize that after competition, we can come together and pool our efforts to make Kenya a better place and to realize this shared vision that we have for our country.
Right. So Rome was not built in a day. What key message would you tell Kenyans in terms of the status of the other big three of the Big 4 agenda? Affordable housing, food security, universal healthcare.
I think we're making still very good progress. We are engaged with counties, especially on the health agenda, because as you know, health is a devolved function, and that is going to require a great deal of partnership between the national government and the county governments. We're looking at the resource bucket that we have, and to see how we can manage that. We're looking at putting in place the necessary laws and regulations, and as you're familiar, there are to's and fro's. We had come up with a housing fund proposal, which has come up with a lot of pull and push, but ultimately I believe we will get there, right? We have started the housing program. There are a number of different projects, and you will see us launching them across the country. We have really made progress. We have the trial or the pilot counties that we started off with, which was Kisumu, Machakos, Isiolo, and Nyeri. And we are hoping now to roll out the affordable universal healthcare, across the country. So that's again being seriously looked at. The manufacturing side, like I'm saying, we are already seeing some impact with the housing agenda that we have, with new factories that are coming through. We're seeing that the possibility of job creation through manufacturing. We are moving in the right direction. Results will not be instantaneous. But I am very confident, very, very confident, that we are heading in the right direction. Challenges are there. Yeah, I'm not going to lie to you that I don't face challenges every waking moment, right? But the commitment is there. Actions are being taken. Progress is being made. And I believe we will get to where we want to be.